Okay, this is kind of unlike any video that I have done before, but in building this community, I really thought I really believe that we all have been through things that are hard, and often there is a reason for it, or there can be a reason for it. Not that it like always makes perfect sense, but I think that our suffering can sometimes help guide and comfort others through their suffering. So one of the hardest things that my husband and I have ever been through together was having a colicky baby. Our second child was just like a perfect little newborn, weeks 1 to 3. And something like the day he turned 3 weeks old, everything changed. And it was confusing at first. I think I just like didn't know what it was or like how to explain it. And like finally I Googled colic and I was like, oh, this is it. Except the thing is, colic is something, I should look it up. It's something like they have to cry 3 times a day for 3 hours for 3 days straight for 3 weeks or something ridiculous. And I was like, well, he's only crying for 2 hours, 2 times a day, and it's only been 2 days. Like, I don't know. It was just like a whole thing that I was like, I guess technically this isn't it. And I remember like asking the pediatrician, asking my midwife, and they were like, well, like technically that doesn't fit the description. But no one was like, yeah, your baby is crying like an absurd amount and it's really hard and also it sucks. Like, I just feel like I wasn't very validated. And it took me a while to kind of come into my own and say like, yeah, this is not like normal, and it's not okay, and it's really, really hard. One thing I did that was helpful was I'm part of a Facebook group for the brand Secura Bloom. They do like buy, sell, and trade of their ridiculously expensive products. Don't get me started. Anyway, and they also have a discussion. So like I've gone on there and been like, my son's name is this and we're having another baby. What should I name him? Like it's great. Anyway, if you want to know more about it, let me know. I'd love to like give you a link. But I put on there, has anyone dealt with colic? How was it? And what did you do about it? And overwhelmingly the response, because like tons of people responded, because it's moms like all over the country. Tons of people responded and were just like, I am so sorry. Like no one was like, yeah, this is what we did and this is how it fixed it and blah, blah, blah. Like people were just like, I am really, really sorry. Someone used the phrase noise fatigue and I thought that was like so fitting. A lot of people just talked about like how hard it is for the parents, which is like hard because you see your baby and they're crying so much and you want to help them. So you're like, my poor baby. But like, it is really hard on you. If you're dealing with this, you know what I'm talking about. And I just want to give you permission to be like, yeah, this is really hard for me. So the other thing I would like to offer you is an excerpt from my journal, okay, when my baby was 6 weeks old. So here's what I wrote. Wow, I don't even have words to describe the kind of drained that I am. Maybe a little dead inside. It's the feeling of wanting to stare at a blank wall for an indefinite amount of time. The baby cries a lot. And he doesn't do that cute newborn thing of sleeping anywhere, anytime, all day long. Our kid is 2.5 with a roller coaster of emotions from 1 second to the next. Either one would be exhausting on their own, but the two together, wow. Was it a mistake to have kids this close together? We never could have known that the baby would be harder to care for than our now 2.5-year-old was. I know it's just a season, but here we are again of wanting easier times, but knowing I shouldn't wish away the present. Now, 5 days later. Last weekend was so hard. I just sat and held the baby for hours at a time, multiple times. He had some crying fits, feedings were confusing and messy. He didn't eat for hours at a time, didn't sleep for hours at a time, and would only sleep when held. And my husband was supposed to go back to work on Tuesday. I was really overwhelmed. I told my husband, because he has some like flexible paternity leave, I told him I didn't think it was time for him to go back to work, but that I felt bad saying that, and I just couldn't see how any of this was sustainable or realistic for one person. I felt like I finally found some answers online in researching colic. Starts at 3 weeks, peaks at 6. At this time, my baby was 6 weeks old. Inconsolable crying, may be gas-related, stressful for parents. The first 2 nights my mom was here, she got to see the real thing. Honestly, it put my mind at ease to see her unable to comfort him because it told me I wasn't crazy. Yesterday and today, though, he seemed a lot more like a normal baby. No crazy crying fits, actually sleeping in his crib, sometimes even on his back. So now, of course, I'm wondering if it's all in my head, if I got all worked up over nothing. Here's what we're doing, some of which is definitely helping. I mean, I say definitely, but like, listen, this went on for 3 more weeks. It didn't help. Probiotics, grape water, holding to fall asleep, often to stay asleep, baby wearing at home, some naps on the belly, vibrator on tush. Okay, not like a sex vibrator. It's like a breast thing to work out breast lumps or whatever. So let's see if it lasts. I also wonder if we're just understanding and meeting his needs better. Guess what? It didn't work. Lasted 3 more weeks. 10 days later. This is this one is just really sad. Today was a hard day. It started out fine, but it feels like everything changed in an instant. The baby was crying. I had him in the wrap to go outside. I had to put on my snow boots, so he was practically upside down in the wrap and just kept crying more and more. He had already been crying for a while. I bounced and shushed and patted and sang, and finally I stood up and did one hard jump. And immediately he got quiet, and the only thing that came to mind was shaken baby syndrome. Without thinking, I lost my patience and I got too physical with him. I went downstairs to wait for my husband and our child, and the whole time I'm Googling, how hard do you have to shake a baby for it to be shaken baby syndrome, and signs of shaken baby syndrome. I do think he's fine, but this wasn't okay. BT dubs, he was fine. But this is just showing you the depths. If you are at all in this place, just know that you're not crazy and you're not alone. And also, if you are worried that you might be an actual danger to your child, there are people that can help you, okay? Sometimes I feel like this baby is breaking up our family. We have to do everything separate. My husband was with our child all day, and I held the baby to sleep in our room most of the day. From 5:30 on, I was in our room today. Dinner, bath, bedtime for our kid. I didn't get to be a part of any of it. This wasn't supposed to be this hard. It seems like everything about this baby isn't what we expected. He's a boy, not a girl. Labor was harder this time. Pregnancy too. And now all of this. He will not sleep unless he's held. I pick him up to feed him because I know I should. I have to. But I'm worried that I don't like him or love him. And maybe I resent him. And now this could affect my milk supply and just make everything worse. Tonight I picked him up when he cried because that's what I'm supposed to do. Not because I feel bad for him. Sometimes I tell myself it will get better, but I don't really know that. It feels like that thought of, we don't know what we're having, but we think it's a girl, wishful thinking. And even if he does eventually stop crying, what happens when my husband goes back to work? What about when we have 2 kids in one room? What the heck will nap time look like? It's like I can envision us with a couple of school-age kids in this apartment, but I totally skipped over the early years. I feel so alone. This baby is this poor, innocent creature, and when I remember that, I just feel even more terrible about all of this. When he was crying in the swing earlier, I just gave up. I sat and stared at him. Our child went and got a pacifier and put it in the baby's mouth, but I just froze. My 2.5-year-old took better care of the baby than I did in that moment. So, I'm really glad that I wrote those things because I remember how hard that was and how it felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, you know? And so if that's you, again, you're not crazy and you're not alone, okay? Here is the light at the end of the tunnel for you. 2 weeks later. The baby is now 10 weeks old, and it's like we have an entirely different baby. We had the night from hell about a week and a half ago where he cried almost nonstop from 3 p.m. to midnight. And when I tell you that was one of the hardest experiences of my life, you probably know. We call it the night from hell for a reason. It was terrible beyond words, draining in every possible way, to say the least. But then it never happened again. And he started sleeping more regularly and started smiling. It was so weird. He has the sweetest little smile, and I feel like we've actually been able to enjoy him. He still only sleeps when he's held, but sometimes he'll nap in the crib for 15 or 30 minutes after he's been asleep in our arms for a bit. We also have a bit of a rhythm down that's working for us. We eat dinner at 5:30, and then I go with the baby while my husband does bath and PJs with our child. I feed the baby, I get him to fall asleep in my arms, and then our child always comes in to say goodnight. He's always extra sweet and extra cute. You know how they are right before bedtime? These kids. He's also started saying, Buenas noches, mommy, which is just really cute. So there you have it. That was a little glimpse into, a very intimate little glimpse into my experience with colic and even the transition going from one kid to two. It was very difficult. It did not last forever, but in the midst of it, it felt like it might. So if you are dealing with that, I will say, I've said it before and I'll say it again, you're not crazy, you're not making it up, and you are not alone. Find people that you can talk to. If you want to send me an email, leave me a comment on this video or whatever. I'm here for you. And if journaling is your thing, I would encourage you to just get your feelings out, as ugly and as dark as they might be. Just get them out, because one day you won't feel that way anymore, and you can look back and say, wow, look how far we've come. And if you're still in the dark days of colic, hang in there. It won't last forever. If I were with you, I would give you a hug. But instead, your challenge is to go find somebody, your partner, if you have another kid, a friend, and just tell them, I'm having a hard time. Please give me a hug. It might sound silly, but I think it'll help at least a little.